Everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Thank you, and it is good to be here again. It has been a dramatic and a deeply sad week. The ceasefire in Gaza has not held, and Israeli strikes have killed another 400 people. Humanity is in a horrendous situation there, fighting over piece of land, while elsewhere around the world, people are taking flights to the moon and Mars. Meanwhile, in India, another shameful incident has occurred with communal unrest erupting in Nagpur over an attempt to dig up someone's grave after 300 years that person has died. Speaking of India, it is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore the country's economic situation, particularly the fundamental of its economy such as manufacturing and banking. So talking about banking, since 2014, a significant number of banks in India have either shut down or merged to improve their financial viability. About 60 cooperative banks, both rural and urban together, they have closed due to their failures. In 2023 alone, 17 cooperative banks were shut down, the highest number in any single year. In the same year, 39 urban cooperative banks were facing insolvency under Banking Regulation Act due to negative net worth and severe financial irregularities. In public sector, multiple bank mergers have taken place since 2019, reducing the total number of public sector banks altogether. For instance, Punjab National Bank, which was 130 years old, merged with Oriental Bank of Commerce, 82-year-old. Canara Bank, 119-year-old bank, merged with the Syndicate Bank, which was 100 years old. Allahabad Bank, 160-year-old bank. It merged with Indian Bank, which was 117-year-old. So if you look at 2022 alone, public sector bank closed nearly 2,000 branches across the country due to mergers and rationalization efforts just to make them viable. The historical significance of these banks in India is immense and priceless. Nobody has spoken about it. We are doing it. Particularly all these grand old banks, they are ones that survived significant challenges like World War I and World War II, various economic downturns like the Great Depression, and these banks were deeply intertwined with India's socio-political movement, especially the independence struggle. And many of these institutions, they played pivotal roles in supporting the Indians' freedom struggle and were founded by visionaries who had aligned with our freedom struggle, with our leaders at the time. And these banks, through their existence, they witnessed the transformation of Indian society from harsh realities of British colonial rule to complex dynamics of newly independent nation. They served as bridges integrating various sections of Indian society, including rural and urban population, diverse population, both rich and poor. However, this long-standing legacy has come to an unfortunate emotionless end, which can only refer to some kind of consolidation, nationalization, or collapse of these institutions, and they have been losing their historical value and significance in the modern banking world. Sometimes I feel the current government is trying to overturn everything which has been a proud legacy of India. So what exactly is happening to the Indian banks? Is our money safe? Is the Indian banking system a forerunner to the upcoming financial crisis in India? So the reports suggest that around 80 banks altogether have shut down in last decade, beginning with small institutions and large ones. And the latest bank in trouble is New India Cooperative Bank Mumbai, which has 30 branches and has been caught in financial fraud. Depositors are unable to access their funds and will receive only 5 lakh rupees, which is about 5,000 euros as deposit insurance, regardless of their deposit, howsoever big that deposit is. And this is a devastating news for all of them. Another bank under scrutiny in recent times is the IndusInd Bank, owned by the Hinduja Group. And this has failed to match its book by $250 million, about 2,000 crore. The State Bank of India, the backbone of all the banks, the largest and the most reputed Indian bank, has been embroiled in the electoral bond controversy, if you remember. Discussions around these issues have raised concern about how much scandals impact investors' confidence in the Indian banking system. This could be one of the key reasons behind the exodus of foreign direct investment. We spoke at length, I think, last year. About 5 years ago, Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank (PMC) that had 17 lakh depositors, 1.7 million depositors, and it was shut down due to financial mismanagement and discrepancies. Many depositors lost their savings, and it remains unclear whether the government was able to compensate beyond the deposit insurance. Why are all these bank closures important? Many of these banks facing financial difficulties, the majorities are cooperative banks. And the regulation and oversight, ironically, of these cooperative banks fall under the purview of Mr. Amit Shah, who also serves as Home Minister. Why this raises questions? Because under him comes the role of investigative agencies like Enforcement Directorate, dreaded CBI, and other investigative agencies, and they are unable to address the persistent financial irregularities in the banking system. So there is a dark spot there, a blind spot there. It is widely known that most cooperative banks are either run by politicians or they have strong political connections, leading to serious conflict of interest at the cost of us Indian depositors. Who are these depositors? Have a closer look. Another unfortunate reality is that the primary victims of these bank failures are small and middle class depositors, particularly those banking with cooperative institutions. And when these banks shut down abruptly due to financial mismanagement, the impact on economically vulnerable sections of the society is devastating. It's life-changing. As a big picture, what the economist would have a look at is that a decade ago, India's total loans stood at 52 lakh crores, about $604 billion. But then the GDP was growing at 7.2%. Now, the loan burden in 2025 have multiplied fivefold. So it is about 270 lakh crores, which is $3.1 trillion. But then the GDP has declined to 6.4%. So the money is not coming back from the economy into the banks. And this growing disparity is making debt repayment increasingly difficult, putting banks under serious pressure and rising defaults. Fundamentally, the banks are dependent on retail deposits, home loans, auto loans, student loans, and business loans. So let's have a quick and a close look at it. The retail savings is down, so deposits are down. People are unable to save. The household saving rate is at all-time low, and therefore it has a consequence on the retail banking. In cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, and Bengaluru, according to Business Standard, 1 million housing units are ready but standing unsold. So home loans are down. The non-premium automobile industry, the inventories are high, so the auto loans for that sector is down, is under pressure. The student loans are in default because the freshers are not getting jobs good enough to pay back the loans, and that's due to high unemployment. The business loan is sliding because the manufacturing and the related business activities are under stress. For those now advocating Sanatan Dharma, particularly from the ruling parties, this decline in saving, household saving, contradicts traditional values. How? More people are taking loan against gold, which is traditionally seen as bad omen. Alarmingly, defaults on gold-backed loans are also rising, and this is further aggravating financial concerns. So this is for those who are upholding the flag of Sanatan Dharma. Financially, bad omen is playing around. The microfinance sector is also struggling, with defaults occurring even on small loans, ranging from rupees 100 to 500, which is like $1 to $5. And this indicates financial distress across various economic segments of society. This situation has persisted for a while now, primarily because the economy is shrinking. The GDP is merely growing at 6.4%. But if India needs new jobs, then India needs to grow at 10 to 12%. Given the present policies and economic outlook, achieving such high growth rates seems highly unlikely. A close observation, since 2014 and 15, the Indian banks have written off a staggering 14.5 lakh crore rupees, about 168 billion in non-performing assets. These non-performing assets stood at 9 lakh crores, $104 billion, and after the write-off, they have been reduced to nearly half. While this might appear to be a strategy to make banks healthier, the method raises concern. It's a scam. I would say. Look at this. Of the 14.5 lakh crores written off, loans to large industries and companies account for approximately half, 7.5 lakh crores, $87 billion. However, the number of farm loans written off remains unclear. This needs closer scrutiny, especially considering the rising farmer suicides, a crisis that has received little attention in recent discussions. These write-offs are basically weakening the financial strength of our banks. In 2024, Reliance Communication, owned by Mr. Anil Ambani, you would all know him, had a debt of 47,000 crores, $549 billion. However, the company paid back less than 1% of the amount, about 455 crores, $50 million, with the remaining debt being written off by the banks. So given the junior Ambani's well-known political and the business connections, this raises serious concerns about favoritism, crony capitalism, financial irregularities, and conflict of interest. And that is the crux of the problem across the Indian banking system. It is benefiting the rich and powerful at the expense of middle class and working class taxpayers. This systemic issue is nothing short of a disease. On the other side, if Indian farmers had the same privilege of having their loans written off by just 1% repayment, many of the suicides, the tragic suicides caused by the financial distress, could have been prevented. Between 2014 and 22, India witnessed over 100,000 farmer suicides. In year 22 alone, 11,000 farmers and farm laborers were reported to have taken their own lives. How sad is that? Vidarbha region of Maharashtra, 26,000 farmer suicides were recorded between 2013 and 22, averaging 7 suicides per day. These should have been the headlines, and the trend is continuing. In first half of last year, 1,200 suicides were reported. Millions of farmers are struggling, but then, salute to them, they continue to support and feed India's growing population. So how do we conclude the banking story of India? If you look at the West, Greece has gone through banking collapse. American banks have been not so good either. The German banks are in question, and so are the British banks. Why? In all these countries, the write-off of bad loans tends to disproportionately benefit large corporations and politically connected businesses. And this has led to crony capitalism and double standards in financial regulations. There has been resentment from the taxpayers and small businesses, but then there is a growing distrust in the financial institutions and the government. The Indian banks and in the larger picture, the economy needs urgent reforms to protect the depositors and restore trust in the financial system of India. The health of the banking system is a direct reflection of the economy, and the current indicators, therefore, are worrying. With those thoughts, I leave you until next week. Stay safe, stay informed. Bye for now.
Everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.